Major Spoilers podcast covers news, reviews, and of course, spoilers, and goes into details about the topics discussed. So if you haven't read, listened, or watched the items we talk about, you might want to come back later.
I'm Matthew.
Rodrigo.
And I'm Steven, and you're listening to the Major Spoilers podcast, the podcast for pop culture and comic fans.
In this issue, Life in Plastic is fantastic, and E.L. O'Brien is living proof. We're going to flee the mummy, join the Joes, spray paint the vegetables, and ride the snake. But notice, at no time do our fingers leave our hands. It's the MSP SOP, use guys. We bring the noise, but unfortunately, I left the funk in the car, so we'll have to make do with this Pop-Tart I found under the fridge. Irregardless, not a word. The Major Spoilers podcast is in the wild, and it's on the air.
Welcome to issue 1123 of the Major Spoilers podcast. Thank you for joining us this week as we do a fan recommendation, Plastic Man on the Lam from Kyle Baker. We're going to get to that a little bit later in the show. But first, in the Major Spoilers podcast pre-show, we talked about cryptids, coyotes, and hackers. Oh, if you want to get in on that action, all you need to do is point your browser to our Patreon page, patreon.com/majorspoilers. And just for $5 a month, you can get access. I checked this out the other day. I was like, how many pre-show episodes can someone get access to instantly when they become a silver level member at patreon.com/majorspoilers? And the answer is a lot. There are 312 pre-show shows that you can listen to where we talk about all sorts of wild and crazy things. There are over 1,000 episodes of just bonus content stuff that you can get access to instantly when you become a silver level member for mere $5 a month. $5 a month in this economy? Of course. But I know what some of you are thinking. Oh man, I just want more free stuff. I know the Major Spoilers podcast is free. We want more free stuff. Okay, fine. Go over to patreon.com/majorspoilers. Sign up for free. You don't even have to give us anything. And we will give you the Major Spoilers Book Club. The book club for, April. The book club for April is The Slow Horses. It's the book that is turned into the Apple TV series. Dr. Bradley, Will, and I will be discussing that book at the end of the month. And of course, you can join the Discord server where you can jump into the Book of the Month Club channel and share your thoughts on The Slow Horses. It's absolutely free, doesn't cost you anything, but we think that with all the thousands, Rodrigo, 1,123 episodes of the Major Spoilers podcast free, 700 episodes of Critical Hit free. We are now 185 episodes of the Legion Clubhouse free. I've lost track of top 5 free. We think that maybe you might want to give a little back, like $5. Find out more, patreon.com/majorspoilers. Let us also do some reviews. We've been following the G.I. Joe saga for some time. We spent a whole month looking at the whole Energon universe, and now the big first arc of G.I. Joe has come to a conclusion. Matthew, how'd it go?
I've been following the G.I. Joe saga since I was 11, and so I am a sucker for a good G.I. Joe story. As promised, vaguely, when we covered the first 4 eps of G.I. Joe at the end of our Energon universe, issue 6 is the final issue of the big arc. You may remember that in the G.I. Joe, you have your Cobra Commander, who's the leader of the Cobra, and you have your Duke, who's the leader of this new, young, hip kind of squadron of G.I. Joes. And they've been building up to a huge head-butting fight in a world that's being touched by alien forces, specifically in the form of Cybertronians, the Decepticons led by Starscream, and some of them other Transformers, the Autobots, is floating around. So most of this issue is the long-awaited moment where Cobra Commander and Duke come face to face. And Cobra Commander has rigged not just the brainwave device, but a brainwave bomb. The brainwave bomb powered by the brainwave device's creator, Dr. Monev, because I have dyslexia. The brainwave device is going to explode, and it's going to cause everyone within about a 400-mile radius to become a loyal subject of Cobra, a mindless slave of Cobra. Now, we do get something else in this issue that I've been looking forward to. The Baroness and Destro finally come face to face. I don't know if you guys, may remember
are they practicing
Destro
their clarinets and
the clarinet. Yeah.
yeah.
They're actually shooting at each other with high caliber ammunition while flying in helicopters, but that's okay.
That's fun.
Yeah, it's a whole thing. So Destro and the Baroness shoot at each other as the brain bomb ticks and ticks and ticks. And we do find that, you remember when Cobra Commander lost an arm back in his own series? Yeah, he's still missing an arm. Yeah, but he's replaced it with Cybertron arms.
Yeah.
Fight and fight.
Can they transform into different things? Like, can it go and turn into a hand cannon?
Yes, in fact, it can, because he's hand cannoning all over the place and nearly killing Duke with it. And finally, at the last second, Duke tells the commander, "I'm not afraid to die. Are you? Can you live knowing that when you create your empire and Cobra takes over the world, that you won't get to see it?" And so the commander deactivates his own bomb. And of course, that means shooting Dr. Venom in the face, because Dr. Venom is actually powering the bomb, but that's neither here nor there. The battle nearly means the end of both of them. Now, I've got to say, I love Joshua Williamson's Cobra Commander, because this man is absolutely mind-blowingly goofy without fear. At a certain point in the fight, he decides he's done. He takes his sword, puts it in his sheath, walks off the edge of a building, and is caught by one of his helicopters. Literally just a no-look pass right off the edge of a skyscraper. Such a cool moment that really cements that this character is, not necessarily a mewling sycophant voiced by Chris Latta. He is, in fact, a complete and utter sociopathic, nonsense, crazy person who's from an alien world, and who in my head is still voiced by the late Chris Latta. But the issue solicitation does promise you'll never believe what happens at the end. So I'm going to give you a little bit. I don't want to spoil it, but there is something in this issue that is a major piece of Hasbro Universe history. And it is a big, big moment, because Cobra Commander is talking about the war that's coming and the war that's already here. And as he says that, we see a little ghost image of Megatron. So, end of the issue. This is the one thing that I will tell you is really, really cool and really, really awesome. Clutch, you remember Clutch was undercover with Cobra. Clutch has finally gotten free of Cobra. He's come back to his team. He's getting a little time off. And so he jumps into a Jeep and he takes off for a little time off. And as he gets maybe half a mile from headquarters, his Jeep starts acting funny. And then it goes, and we see Clutch face to face with Hound. Hound is, of course, one of Optimus Prime's most loyal soldiers, who transforms into an army Jeep. That is not the big, giant thing at the end. However, it is just an amazing last panel. I got to tell you.
I've been telling people this G.I. Joe series is really good.
If it got Steven into G.I. Joe, you guys,
yeah,
I don't
seriously, and Transformers too. This whole Energon. Hey, congratulations, Joshua Williamson and Robert Kirkman. You have got me on board the Hasbro stuff 40 years after outside of my age demographic.
After you should have been, because here's the thing. I don't know a lot of people our age, 50, 51, 52, who weren't heavily influenced by the Transformers and the G.I. Joe. I mean, you're over there reading your Doc Savage magazines in the garage and doing your thing, and the rest of us are like, "Dut, dut, 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 dut." But to get Stephen on board with G.I. Joe, Stephen, the last recluse, the last one who wasn't a G.I. Joe lover, born in the year 1970, that's impressive enough. The fact that they managed to make these massive sweeping changes and get a guy who, me, is what I'm saying. The guy who knows all of the lore and all of the backstory and all of Iacon was once at Prime, and then there was to get me on board with this so easily, so excellently, so quickly. That is an amazing achievement. So what you're looking at is a comic book that really just kind of kills it. So here's the thing: 4 slices of meatloaf for G.I. Joe number 6. You may say to yourself, that's a pretty awesome number. Why was it not 5 slices of meatloaf? Well, there's 2 reasons. One, as the end of an arc, it throws a bunch of things out there that we're now going to have to follow. And I'm kind of like, oh man, now I have to map this all out in my head. And 2, I do feel like there are some things in here that I'm like, they have actually room to better themselves. They have room to up their game. I'm looking forward to a second arc of Josh Williamson. Now, is Jordie doing the art?
Jordie Bellaire. I don't know if he is the ongoing. I'd have to go back and double check on that. He might be.
Yeah.
Because Josh Williamson is doing all the Transformers art himself, but I think somebody else is doing all the G.I. Joe stuff.
Right. I know Jordie as a colorist, and I know her as an excellent colorist. If she is the artist on this book, oh my gosh, hidden talents, Jordie is amazing. So here's the thing that you really need to know. 4 slices of meatloaf for G.I. Joe number 6. Go read it. Learn it.
Looks like issues 1 through 6 was supposed to be Tom Riley with Jordie Bellaire doing the coloring. And then Andrea Milana is doing the art for issues 7 through 12 with Lee Lowridge doing the coloring for that.
Okay, so that is an error in the solicitation that I copied. I apologize for the inconvenience. Please return everything to back where you left it. But nonetheless, 4 slices of meatloaf. It's a good book, y'all. And I kind of wish we had now waited to get to the end of the arc. So
I know, right? But it just, I thought we would be. Yeah, no, I thought we'd get to that part. But okay, surprise trivia quiz time. Matthew says he knows everything about the Transformers. Here we go. Who wasn't part of Team Char, the Decepticon team made by Megatron? Is it Blackout, Strika, Cyclonus, or Char?
I think Char. Char is a planet.
Correct. Question number 2. Who was not part of Team Athenia, the team that fought Team Char to protect Space Bridge 687-030? Is it Brawn, Strika, Red Alert, or Hotshot?
I think Brawn, because Brawn was dead by that point. Brawn died in 2005.
No, the correct answer is Strika. Question number 3. So you're 50%. You're 50%. Jetfire and Jetstorm fuse to make which Transformer? Is it Safeguard, Cliffjumper, Highbrow, or Ramjet?
That I don't know. I'm going to go Ramjet.
Incorrect. The answer is Safeguard. You're now 1 for 3. Question number 4.
I was hoping for a highbrow.
I know, me too.
Just to we're gonna mount together. Well,
it'll be the exact opposite of the what were the racist Transformers from that second or third?
Oh yeah, movie? From the second, yeah.
Question number 4. While all of them wielded it, at one point, which of these 4 did not outright use the Magnus hammer? Was it Shockwave, Ultra Magnus, Ratchet, or Optimus Prime?
Prime.
Incorrect. The answer is Ratchet.
Really?
Question number 5. There were many Starscream clones, but which one of them was female? Was it Sunstorm, Slipstream, Skywarp, or Thundercracker? That's what you want to name your female Starscream clone. Thundercracker. No, Slipstream is the correct answer.
No, you're lying.
Nope. Question number 6. The TFA short, the Transformers animated short Catch, featured which Autobot and Dinobot? Is it Bulkhead and Grimlock, Optimus and Grimlock, Optimus and Swoop, or Scrapper and Snarl?
I'm going to say Optimus and Grimlock.
Incorrect. Bulkhead and Grimlock. Question number 7. Who voiced Wreck-Gar? Was it Plain Talk, Tom Kinney,
Eric Idle.
Weird Al Yankovic, or Tara Storm?
Oh, Weird Al Yankovic in the new.
That is
the
correct.
New continuity.
Question number 8.
Originally, it was Eric Idle.
What was the name of the Transformers animated Decepticon refugee colony after Megatron's disappearance? Was it Darkmount, Capital World, Decepticon Empire, or New Cohen?
New Cohen? I'm going to go
Correct.
with New Cohen.
All right. Final question.
Okay.
Oh, nope. This is dumb. It's a joke. It's a joke quiz.
Oh, come on, try me.
Which one is
Hot
real?
Rod.
Which is the real Sumdak? And it's a bunch of pictures of this character. All right. So you got a 2 out of 8. There you go, ladies and gentlemen.
Maybe like a 3 out of 8. Thank you very much.
Well, it's still not know everything about the Transformers. All right. This week, I am taking a look at Universal Monsters: The Mummy #2 from Image Comics. Now, Image Comics has this thing going on where they are doing every Universal monster. So they've done Frankenstein, they've done the Creature from the Black Lagoon, they've done Dracula. I don't know if they've done Wolfman yet, but now it's the Mummy's turn. And basically, this is the comic book adaptation of the 1930s Universal Monster run. This one is issue number 2. If it's been a while, probably 2 or 3 years since I've watched the 1932 Boris Karloff The Mummy movie. So some of the things that I don't recollect happening in the comic books, I don't recollect happening in the movie. But that's okay, because I don't want a direct word-for-word, shot-for-shot reproduction of the movie in comic book form. You can do a fumetti if you want to do that. This is written by Faith Erin Hicks with art by Lee Lowridge. We were just talking about Lee with the G.I. Joe coming up next month. So this issue picks up 10 years after the events of the finding the scroll in the desert and the doctor's friend going mad. And now we are in, quote unquote, modern day, where there is a display of a mummy exhibit going on in Egypt. And we get to meet Frank and Professor Pearson. And of course, we get to meet Helen. I don't know how you say her last name. Grosvenor. She's a half Egyptian. She's kind of the lead target in this, where she and Frank fall in love with each other. But then she realizes that Amenhotep is here, or whatever his name is, Ardeth Bey. Realizes that these are the reincarnations of their past selves that died in issue 1. And so what is different about it, it does a very good job of telling the story from the movie. What is different, though, is we get to see this story from the woman's point of view. We get to see it from Helen's point of view. And we also learn that Helen is hearing voices. So the reincarnated Egyptian princess that she looks a lot like is inhabiting her body, and we are hearing them always having conversations. And so everyone's always gossiping. Oh, there's Helen. She talks to herself a lot, or supposedly she hears voices. And so that's a kind of a twist that you don't get in the movie, because you don't have that playing out in the movie. And then, of course, it ends with the two lovers reunited. And then we're going to have to see what happens next, because in issue 3, the mummy insanity is going to boil up. If you've never seen the 1932 film, I would highly encourage you to see it. For a movie made in 1932, and for a movie that is, it's a product of its time, but it is very well done from the horror aspect. And if you were moviegoer or a horror genre fan in the 1930s, what Universal was putting out was spectacular. I mean, this is what saved Universal when they were able to start adapting these Frankenstein and the Dracula, etc. into movies. It literally made Universal go from a small movie company to a major player in Hollywood in the 1930s. And so this adaptation, I was very interested in checking out. Now, I didn't read the first one because I wanted to see if this stood on its own, number one. And number two, I wanted to see kind of how closely it kind of followed my memory of that movie. And I think it does a very, very good job. I think that the one thing I do like the additions that Faith Erin Hicks has added in. I unfortunately am not a super fan of Lee Lowridge's work. I've seen it in other places, and it's fine. Don't get me wrong. The art is fine. It's just, I guess I wanted a little something more from my scary, man wrapped in bandages book. I needed a little bit more contrast. I needed a little less color in it. Not black and white, but I just needed a little bit of that. There are some variant covers to this issue where I get excited about, I hope this is a representation of the art on the inside. And it's not quite that. Still a very solid book, though. If you have never watched it and you're one of those people that the minute someone says black and white movie, you roll your eyes into your back of your head and said, oh, God, if it's not digital and 4K resolution, I don't want to ever see anything made before 2020. Then this might be your next best choice to be exposed to The Mummy. And again, this is not the Mummy remake with Brendan Fraser from, God, was it 95, 96, 97, somewhere around there, 98?
Yeah.
It's not that.
Also not the Tom Cruise remake.
Oh, yeah. Remember when they were going to try to create the Universal Monsterverse? And that, that went places, didn't it, Rodrigo?
Very ambitious. Always great when a company like calls their shot and they're like, call something like The Adventure Begins, or
yes,
or make an open for like an ongoing universe and they only make one movie in it.
I watched that movie, and had they just approached this as a standalone Mummy movie that just so happened to have Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde in it, played by the Gladiator and Tom
Russell
Cruise.
Crowe.
Yeah, and a very pretty actress who plays the reincarnated Egyptian princess. Had they just left that as a standalone movie, I think it probably would have been okay. Now, I forget, there were some other things happening at that time. Was this pandemic?
No, I think this might have been slightly before.
Oh, 2017. So yeah, this was a couple of years before that.
They can't blame COVID on this one.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Or they can't blame this one.
So this this comic book is fortunately not that movie either. Although again, if you want to check it out just for curiosity purposes, there's nothing wrong with it. I wouldn't pay a rental fee or an outright purchase on a digital app to get that movie, but it's fine. The comic book, on the other hand, I'm going to give 3 slices of meatloaf out of 5. It's a $5 book, $4.99. You're only getting a fourth of the story. This is a 4-issue miniseries. I would probably say wait for the trade on this, not because there's anything really wrong with the individual issue, but I think being able to read the entire Mummy story from beginning to end, I think will be a little bit more thrilling, because this one is a lot of, oh, I hear voices, and oh, there's a mummy display. Should we really be doing this? And hello, ma'am, my name is Frank. Oh, you're suddenly wonderful. Oh, I have passed out and woken up in this stranger's house. And oh, suddenly there's the reincarnated version of my long lost love. It's kind of slow in that part. It's that middle arc, which is really setting up the part where Imhotep really goes crazy and starts unleashing, murder upon Cairo. So this part is just probably the slowest part of the entire story arc. So I'm giving it 3 slices of meatloaf out of 5. If you want to pick it up yourself, there is a link to our Amazon affiliate link in the show notes, as well as for G.I. Joe number 6 in our show notes, and for Rodrigo's book. and a little bit comes back our way. So there you go. Universal's Monsters, The Mummy #2 out this week. Now we're jumping ahead a little bit, a couple of weeks, I think. But Rodrigo, I am interested in some psychological horror stuff.
Yeah. The Slasher's Apprentice #1. This is a Mad Cave book. Usually, I'm very intrigued or really enjoy Mad Cave's stuff. This one, kind of a miss for me. But let's get into it. The idea is that you have this true crime slasher obsessed podcaster that is looking for a serial killer. We also see that they have ties, like they have had a run-in with a serial killer before. And now they are looking for a different one, I'm pretty sure, unless maybe later on it'll be revealed that it's the same one. But as you might guess from the title, they're looking to become a serial killer themselves and want to basically apprentice with the slasher. It's I've talked about before the solicitation spoiling things. In this one, you lose a lot of the tension of like, what is this person doing trying to find the serial killer when the book is called The Slasher's Apprentice.
Yeah. Okay.
It's still, it still plays it straight and it still does its thing. But obviously it doesn't have the punch that it might when you realize that this person is looking to become a serial killer. Still enjoyable. The art is good. But I, again, kind of wasn't feeling it. I don't know why. It's, there's nothing wrong with it. I think maybe I just needed a different end to this story. And, maybe when I hear true crime, this is about a true crime podcaster, I'm already a little bit like, just because recently true crime podcasts have kind of become infamous for being kind of exploitive. Unfortunately, I'm sure there's plenty of good ones. I'm sure there's plenty that do their due diligence, but there's a lot of them out there and not everybody's being nice about it. So I just, sometimes you read a comic, you don't jive with it. Again, art is good, nothing wrong with the premise. Maybe gets deflated a little bit because the premise is in the title, but not bad. I'm going to give it 2.5 slices of meatloaf.
Okay, very cool. I've kind of been watching Oni Press and Mad Cave over the last couple of years, especially in the last 2 years. It feels like they are really ramping up the number of comics that they are releasing each week. And it seems to be on par with Boom and Dynamite and even Dark Horse with the number of comics that they're releasing. And a lot of them are really, really good, both Oni and at Mad Cave Studios.
Yeah, for some reason, the last couple times that I've done a Mad Cave book and I look for it online, the links through Google are not working, which I'm going to blame Google. So I end up going into previews and looking through Mad Cave stuff. And they've really just opened the floodgates. They're coming out with tons of stuff. And not only that, but as their series or volumes finish, they're putting out trades. So they're cranking. They they've got it figured out, it seems.
Yeah, I was going to look here just as a comparison. So Boom Studios has where are you with the Amory Wars? Are you care about that anymore? Because they've been continuously releasing that series for feels like a decade now. I didn't know if you were still into that.
I've actually never been into it.
Okay.
But at this stage, any joking about Claudio's like obsession with his childhood thing, I was like, if he's still going with it, you know what? I'm gonna shut up. Do your thing, man. All right. Go for it.
So Boom Studios has one trade paperback out this week, Farscape Volume 2, and then it has 3 standalone issues. One of them being Minor Arcana number 6, the wrap of the first arc from Jeff Lemire on that. Dark Horse, if we look at what they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They have 8 comics coming out this week, right? If you go and you look at what Mad Cave is releasing this week, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 books that are standalone, including the new Gatchaman Ryu Scavengers one-shot.
Yeah, that's the other thing is they're getting more adaptations of properties too.
Yeah, they have Dick Tracy and a bunch of other stuff. And then they have 2 trade paperbacks that are coming out. Oni has 1. Oh, let's see. This is Epitaphs from the Abyss number 10. They've got the EC Comics line now. So they're releasing a ton of stuff from that EC Comics line. So Epitaphs from the Abyss number 10 is out this week. So that's 1. Out of Alcatraz number 2. Rick and Morty, Rick Mania number 3. I guess they've only got 3 books out this week. The rest are trades. But most other weeks they've got like 5 or 6 books that land in box. So, comparing them to a Boom Studios or a Dynamite or Image Comics still has a lot of books thanks to Skybound, but they're really climbing up. They've surpassed IDW for sure as far as number of books released each week.
I think, there's a market for comic books out there, and I think a lot of companies have sort of figured out what works for them as far as like what sort of output and what sort of properties they're courting or whatever. I think there used to be this idea that like if you were putting out comics, you had to put out superhero comics, and then you were competing with the big 2.
Yeah.
But as you can see, some of these are superhero comics, but the majority of them are not. But even then, we see independent superhero stuff hit just fine. Like
Ahoy Comics.
I would say the Radiant Black stuff is technically superheroes.
It's an
Black Hammer. Yeah.
Yeah, they have Black Hammer, and they also have From the World of Minor Threats, which I think is superheroes over at Dark Horse Comics. I want to read that. That's the Patton Oswalt series, and David Poussaint, I think, is also on that series. I forget.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Good stuff.
On that one. Yeah. And so they've got some stuff. They've also they've got the Witcher series still at Dark Horse. They've got the Mark Miller stuff over at Dark Horse. So, I'm not saying that Dark Horse needs to be dismissed, but it's just like, here are 2 publishers that, even though Oni Press, I think, has been around for as long as Major Spoilers has, maybe a little bit longer. They have really grown up to become in my opinion, a major publisher in comic books. And I think that's a good thing. I think in a time period when everyone only thought that you had the big 5, Marvel, DC, Dark Horse, Image, and, various, I guess you'd probably put your Boom's in there. Boom's about as old as Major Spoilers is as well.
IDW, wasn't IDW
IDW would be that other one.
More comics than,
Yeah, they've had some financial issues over the last couple of years. I really appreciate everything that IDW Publishing did with IDW Entertainment. I mean, that's where we got the what was that TV series they had? Jane Earp? No.
Winona Earp.
Yeah, Winona Earp. They had that series, which was very popular with the fans, but it was a lot of drain on finances for the company. And then they also had IDW Games, which brought us the fantastic Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game and the Batman animated series game through that. But that also was a big financial burden on the company. And so they've had some issues. And there's some other issues, too, that I'm not going to create any kind of libel or slander issues for us. But they've had some issues. Yeah.
Yeah, you take big swings. If it doesn't work out, you're in the hole. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, of course, they've had trouble with the Hasbro properties going over to Skybound. And now, well, they don't have all the properties because they still do My Little Pony. They still do Sonic. They still do Star Trek. So they have that Paramount one that's still going on. And they have Godzilla stuff. They're doing a lot of stuff with Toho with Godzilla, even though everybody's doing something with Godzilla right now. Marvel
Yeah.
has got their Godzilla takes on Spider-Man, the Hulk, the Avengers, something else, the Fantastic Four. And then DC also has a Godzilla Destroys the DC Universe or something like that that's coming up this summer. So everybody's getting on that, but IDW typically has that. And of course, IDW still has Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So they're doing okay. I think they need a couple of years of just really solid output so they can rebuild and just really good properties to bring them back up. So, yeah. Listeners, what do you think about all this talk? Well, if you have some thoughts, you have some feedback, you want to share your voice and have it heard, well, or read at least, then head over to the Major Spoilers Discord server. You can join absolutely free. In this economy? Yes, Matthew, in this economy, you can
I'm
join
not playing anymore.
the Discord
No.
server absolutely free, and you can jump into the Major Spoilers channel. You can jump into the podcast channel. You can join into the comic book panel, any of these, and talk about your reactions to this discussion. And we love everybody who is joining the Major Spoilers Discord server. So many cool, awesome people over there. It always amazes me the great conversations that go on. There has been, so one of our other shows, Munchkin Land, is really kind of run by Dan Patrice. And there has been some major gaming news things that have come down in the last couple of weeks that Dan didn't get a chance to talk about on the last Munchkin Land, but I'm almost positive he's going to be talking about it on the next Munchkin Land. And it has to do with, is it SG Games? It's the company that does Sentinels of the Multiverse now. That company basically said, hey, we are no longer shipping new product. We are shutting all new production down. And whatever we have in the warehouse, that's what we're selling. And so now people are freaked out because what does that mean for Sentinels of the Multiverse? What does it mean to the Kickstarters that they have going on? So I'm sure Dan will talk about that. I know he's talked about it already over in the Tabletop Games channel over in our Discord server. So go and check that out. Have you heard about what's going on with that, Rodrigo?
No, I hadn't. So
Okay.
I can see why people would be concerned because there's like ongoing stuff still.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff going on at this company, which I'm trying to scroll through. I'm trying to think off the top of my head who is the company that has Sentinels of the Multiverse right now, because the brothers sold that, or the two guys sold Sentinels a few years ago. And now the company is in a little bit of trouble. Is it Greater Than
Is it
Games?
greater than?
Yeah, Greater Than Games. Yeah. Yeah, and their parent company, whatever it is. So, yeah, go find out more. Go find out more in the Major Spoilers Discord. All right, that is it for our reviews. Let us talk about the trade paperback this week. It is Plastic Man on the Lam from writer-artist Carl Baker. This is a DC Comics. It is Plastic Man has been hiding his true identity as the former criminal known as Eel O'Brien. And then finally, there is a murder committed that has Eel O'Brien's name written all over it. The FBI has been called in, and Plastic Man, the greatest hero in the DC universe, has to clear his name and hope that no one finds out his true identity. This is Jarmo who demanded this week. And it's an interesting little story. I would say that I don't think that this is something that I would have read month to month, just because there's some shenanigans that are there. I kind of feel is just filler. But the root of the story, the real meat of the story, works out really, really well, I think. But this is a comic that is not for me, ladies and gentlemen. I will say that. I gave Matthew a warning at the top of the show. Kyle Baker, while I appreciate everything that Kyle Baker does, I think he's an immense talent. He draws better than me. He writes better than me. I am not his target demographic for his antics. I want Paul Dini and the Justice League, and instead I get Ren and Stimpy. And I'm just not a fan of. I like Ren and Stimpy for what it is. I'm not a fan of that art style. And so that was my biggest turnoff for this whole book is the art.
It is weird. And honestly, I am a massive Kyle Baker fan. And I'm a massive Kyle Baker fan because of the Cowboy Wally show, which is one of the few comics that completely fits my genre, my oeuvre, whatever you want to call it. It's my jam. It's my aesthetic. And when you look at the cartoonishness of the Cowboy Wally show, when you look at the cartoonishness of, he was behind Class of 3000, which was Andre 3000's cartoon.
Sure. Yeah.
For like a couple of, that was a couple of years after this. But
Yeah.
if you look at the art style there, that's definitely, it's got a different kind of vibe to it.
Mhm.
Kyle changes up his style, kind of like Keith Giffen. Every time he gets like a new obsession, everything changes. I remember I was working in a comic shop when this book came out, and I remember at least the response of readers in Topeka, Kansas, circa 2004, to the Plastic Man reboot. People were psyched. They're like, "Oh man, Plastic Man, this should be interesting." But when you mention Ren and Stimpy, and there is a very strong Spumco kind of influence here,
Sure.
Ren and Stimpy in 2005, 2004 is 15 years old. Ren and
Yeah.
Stimpy dates back to like the 1991.
The 90s. Yeah.
Yeah. And this, honestly, if you go back, Dan Slott did a Ren and Stimpy book for Marvel in 93, 94. If you go back and read it, you can actually see that influence in these pages, or rather, you can see them both being influenced by, Spumco and John Kay and the usual gang of idiots. But I hate to say it, because every time I say it, first of all, J. Michael T sends me a message that goes, "No, I agree with Steven."
I mean, everybody should, but I can understand why the naysayers wouldn't. But go ahead.
I love a wacky Plastic Man. There was a Plastic Man series in like 88, 89 that was by Hilary Barta, which was just a goofball.
That's what I thought we were
Gail
getting.
Simone. Yeah, Gail Simone did a book a few years ago, like 2000, maybe 8, 9, something like that. But she did a book with Plastic Man that was just gonzo wacky, but it was also, I don't know, like when we see Plastic Man as Eel looks like a big caricature of like John Dillinger if he were played by Rondo Hatton. And I get it. That's the vibe here. We're doing a very classic 1941 kind of bad guy. Oh, it's over the top. I ran up a mountain and now I'm a Plastic Man and I learned how to stretch from monks. That's neat. I feel like that's an interesting take.
Yeah, it is a very, I mean, it's your Green Llamas. It's a lot of your pulp heroes. It's your Shadow kind of characters have that same
You're
kind
amazing,
of origin story. Yeah.
Yeah. But there's something about, is it typeset lettering in this?
That's what it looks like. It looks like it is computer typed. It's not hand lettered, for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And I have opinions about word balloons. I have opinions about their placement and their use. And I feel like Kyle has the spirit throughout this book of really good word balloon rules. And then no, most of the time you have a page that kind of looks almost shaded like an animation cell in a lot of ways. We have the background, but the word balloons are literally cutouts of the art. And then you have all of the words and all of the captions just sort of typed in white space. It's a neat effect. I hate the lack of borders, and I just
I wonder, part of me,
mad.
So again, Plastic Man was not a DC Comics when he originally debuted. He was a
Quality.
Who was Quality Comics, and EC Comics would in the early days say, "Hey, here's the gist of the story. artists go write it and leave the top half of your panel essentially open for us to put the text in. And they would literally, in those early EC horror comics, literally type the text in with a typewriter, right? Or, letter set it. So it wasn't hand lettered. And so I'm wondering if part of the decision to use that kind of lettering here is not supposed to be a callback to the early days of some comic book lettering. I don't know. Again, I have nothing against Kyle Baker, immense talent. I think he likes to have a lot of fun with stuff. Just here, it doesn't work for me. And so when we talk about that Ren and Stimpy influence, or the what was that kangaroo on Nickelodeon, or he was a wallaby. Sorry.
Like Rocco's Modern Life.
Yeah, Rocco's Modern Life. That kind of art style. When they go in for the close-ups and everything gets like hyper detailed. They do it very gross with Ren and Stimpy, but here in this one, it's like suddenly you go in for a close of Batman or Superman or Green Lantern or somebody that's in this, and their faces are like super chiseled and shaded and a higher resolution than the regular antics. And so those kinds of things, I appreciate that because it is a call out to a very specific genre. And I think that if Plastic Man had a little bit more gravitas, knowing what Warner Brothers did with Animaniacs and knowing what they tried to do with, was it Madman or Freakazoid? That's it. Knowing what they tried to do with Animaniacs and Freakazoid, I have a feeling that in the 90s, this Plastic Man, as depicted in this book, would have been the hit #1 Nick at Night TV series. That's just me.
Sure. Yeah, I can see that definitely.
You don't think so, Matthew?
I don't know. I mean,
with the success of Rocco, with the success of that whole Klasky Chupsko, however you say it, that animation house and their style, you throw Kyle Baker in with that, and you roll out this Plastic Man series. I don't know if Plastic Man, because of his antics that we have seen in other TV shows, I'm not sure his antics would have been appropriate for like Saturday morning or, morning cartoons, like when you watch your Animaniacs type stuff, but it definitely would have, I think, been adult enough for Nick at Night.
You can always change that. Like Plastic Man has definitely had like very PG representations even within DC Comics, like the comics of other superheroes and stuff.
Well, if you watch the Batman Brave and the Bold, where Plastic Man appears multiple times, they do a very good job of handling Plastic Man there. But I just think with this style that we're presented in the story that we're presented here, that would have been your Nick at Night highlight on a Friday or Saturday night in the 90s.
Yeah, definitely. If you push it to the 2000s, you make it a little raunchier, and it would also have been like a decent Adult Swim.
Yeah. Or something you could find on like Spike TV with Stripperella.
Yeah, definitely.
But I also feel like...
Oh, go ahead, Matthew. Sorry.
No, I think you're right, but I also feel like this, from the standards of the time, and I am trying to put myself, in my 20 years ago shoes, felt like a throwback. It felt like, when Steve Ditko came back and started drawing Legion of Superheroes in 1978, and you're like, what just happened here? Steve was doing something that was not what we were expecting from the comics of the times. And I think part of the thing with this book, for me at least, is it does feel like a comic from 1994, 95. And I feel like it would have been fun 1994, 95. And for some reason, in 2006, it just kind of felt, I'm not going to say a relic, but it definitely felt like it was of another time that wasn't necessarily like jiving with what I wanted to see.
Yeah. Rodrigo, what are your kind of thoughts on or reactions to what I've said about art and placement and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so I do have this thing about the art.
Okay, lay it on me.
Okay, here's a brief example to set up what I'm saying.
Mhm.
You guys remember Steven Universe, cute little
Yes,
cartoon?
of course. We watch it all
There
the time in
is-
this house.
Yeah, there is an episode in which one of the crystal gems injures her gem, and she keeps coming out wrong.
Mhm.
Like
Yes.
she like disappears and then she comes back out. And that particular episode is done a little bit more loose than some of the other ones.
Mhm.
So at times you see this critter come back out and her eyes are like not the right, like one eye is bigger than the other or whatever. But I'm looking at it and I'm like, but then you cut to Steven being horrified and his expression is so exaggerated that I'm like, that's not more exaggerated than what's happening with this character, right?
Mhm.
So that's kind of what this Plastic Man was like for me, because everybody is like this, like roundy, chunky, long-legged, like tiny, like big-headed, tiny hands
Yeah.
cartoon character.
Yeah.
The stuff that Plastic Man is doing either looks normal or has to be extremely exaggerated, right?
Right.
Like you have to like the barrier for Plastic Man is doing something wacky just shoots up so high because he's surrounded by like somewhere between Chuck Jones and Asterix and Obelix characters.
Mhm.
And so he has to be wackier than those characters. And so I'm reading this and I would have so loved to have the characters be just a little bit more realistic or really proportional, right? To have
Mhm.
more like normal proportions so that their heads aren't so big or whatever. And that would
Mhm.
allow that Plastic Man wackiness. But as I was reading it, like, you know what you're doing, because I will also say that to me, it also felt a little, I mean, whatever the respectful way of saying corny is, like it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you're right.
It's a little. Let's say it's a little cornball, right? Like the
Yeah.
humor is a little bit like it's like this is like weirdly a violent comic, but the humor is very kiddie. Like,
Mhm.
so very often I'm like, oh, I know that Plastic Man is doing something exaggerated because the comic points at it and goes, ta-da! But it's like a little dorky pun or something like that.
Yeah.
So I, taking a step back from that, I do like the art. I do like the character design. I like all this stuff. If you did something like a Booster Gold comic in this style, I think it would work a lot better, right? You take
Mm.
another like sort of comedic superhero character, or like like your Booster Golds or your like Assassin Bugs or something like that.
Yeah, your ambush bugs, or even
Ambush
you
Bug,
could
that's what it is, yeah.
even do a you could probably even do Green Lantern in this style.
Yeah, totally. You could do anything in this style. You could do Batman in this style, and they did. They made
Yeah.
a Christmas movie that was Batman in basically this style,
Mhm.
and it worked just fine, right? But there's something like it's like it's a trap, right? They're like, oh, Plastic Man is like this wacky cartoon character. What if we put him in a wacky cartoon world? And then it's like, well, now he's not special,
Yeah,
right? Now
yeah.
he's not that wacky here.
Yeah, I think that's
Like
probably
his sidekick is wackier than he is.
Yeah, and I agree with you on this, Rodrigo, because I the art by itself works because it is in this style, it is consistent, and it evokes I think the genre that it's supposed to be evoking. So the art is technically correct. It's just an aesthetic appreciation of that doesn't sit with me, and maybe other people too. And I like your idea that the rest of the world needs to be a little bit more grounded in order for us to appreciate the wackiness that is Plastic Man. Yeah.
I think when you're looking at a creator like Baker, there are things that Kyle Baker does that I think are intentionally done to be weird and transgressive. And sometimes,
sure.
to get in your face and poke at you and go, hey, nerd, What do you think about that, nerd? And I always kind of wondered if there wasn't an element of I'm going to mess with the nerds. If that's to try and, to do something that is this, outre, that is this, I think retro is what I would say as opposed to corny, but definitely something that feels like Three Stooges influence, Laurel and Hardy, slapsticky 30s and 40s influences.
Dad joke influenced.
Yeah. And that's cool. That's fine, especially when you look at what else was going on in 2004, 2005. Batman's murdering and Cyclops is murdering and pretty much everybody's just like murdering and there's murder.
There's a brief moment in this comic, and there's a couple moments like this. There's a moment when what's his name? Woozy?
Yeah,
Woozy Wings.
Woozy decides to become a superhero, and he puts on a ski mask to cover his face, and he goes to stop a robbery, and they see the ski mask, and they call him a terrorist. And the old lady who's getting robbed, and the mugger beat him up for being a terrorist. And the mugger like rips open his shirt, and he's got a bit like American flag tattoo. Right. So this is some September 11th stuff, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Still everybody's feeling it at this point. But it was like a taste of what this comic could have been, because it's interesting that Matthew said that it was transgressive, because that's the other thing that it could have been, was more transgressive, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So more like lull you into a sense of security, and then actually this is like hyper violent, right? And it is very violent, but its own art style gets in the way of that. And so, yeah, I just like, there's something here. There's something that could be commentary on any number of things, on America at the time, on like cops, on the FBI, on whatever, right? It's like, it kind of walks up to the line a few times and then kind of walks itself back to someplace more safe.
I wonder if that was editorial going,
Could be.
Hold on now.
Yeah.
We like living here. I don't think they hadn't moved out to the West Coast yet. We like living here at 666, whatever this building is owned by the Kushners. We like staying here. So please don't rock the boat. Yeah. Interesting. Story I thought was fairly straightforward for a mystery hijinks superhero movie or a story. I didn't really have any problem with it. I think there probably could have been a few more clues dropped beyond just the one panel of, "Oh, Eel, come back. How much money?" And then, we jump forward and it's like, I'm secretly the killer, your former ex-girlfriend. And it's like, okay, that's a big leap there, because at no point does Eel ever
suspect anything, or
doesn't suspect anything, but also doesn't reflect on that. He's always reflecting on himself. He's always reflecting on the evil that he did, but very rarely does he say, "Oh, I treated that woman really poorly," or anything like that, to maybe drop an extra hint or two. Not saying that this book really needed it, because it was fine, but I think if you're really setting up a mystery and the mask gets pulled off and it's like, "Woman from panel 23, and I would have gotten away with it too had it not been for Woozy Winks."
Well, except that then she does, because even that they walk back, right?
Yeah.
It's like, there's like some murders and they walk all of those back, so that it turns out that even though she clearly had the intent to murder people, she technically didn't, so it's okay. And again, it's like, it's not being like big or loud enough about it, right? It feels like it's trying to wrap everything up. Like, you need a character in there to be like, to be like, and she didn't actually kill anybody, so it's all okay. And like, for Woozy to be like, well, she tried to kill me, and like nobody's listening to him, right?
Right.
That's the joke. That's the joke that does not appear in this book, right? It should be there, but it isn't. The whole thing is walked back to kind of tie it with a bow. Again, you are giving me Ren and Stimpy. You are giving me like Flapjack. You are giving me all of these like kind of transgressive cartoons. But then having too soft a touch with it a lot of the time, right? And it's
Man,
like,
that does feel maybe editorial meddling.
I mean, it could have been. And that's the thing is like, unless we catch an interview somewhere or something, like you never know, right? It's like sometimes editorial can have good ideas. And sometimes they will absolutely ruin a book because they don't get it, right? Because they don't get what somebody's going for. So yeah, that very well could be.
All right. So what is everybody's final thoughts on this book? There are some, I think for this, there are some interesting things to be taken away, to look at a particular art style, how Kyle Baker is able to adapt to a genre, how Kyle Baker is able to tell comedic story with a serious superheroes or, quote unquote, serious superhero time period and make something completely wacky. I think that there is something there, but this whole thing was just not appealing to me from cover to cover. I appreciate it. I'm glad it exists in the world, but I am not the target audience for this. Maybe you might be. My recommendation is to skip it. But if you see it laying around, glance through it, see if it is your thing. It certainly was for Jarmo. Matthew.
Mm-hmm. Comics, specifically humor comics, are like all humor, very subjective. And I feel like subjectively, I wanted this book to either be more humor or more superhero-y. And I feel like the line that Kyle is going for is another example of, this is a creator who is probably like Jimi Hendrix in front of the crowds at Monterey, playing music that's 10 years ahead of everybody else, and people are just confused by it all. And I honestly do feel that that's the case with Kyle, because everything that Kyle puts together eventually comes back around. If you've ever read Why I Hate Saturn, if you've ever read any of his works, especially if you've ever read the Cowboy Wally show, you're seeing the future. Cowboy Wally basically shows you what reality shows have become in 2025 and did it 20 years ago, 25 years ago. So
yeah. And see, I like his art in Cowboy Wally. I really do like the art and the art style there. I think it's perfectly on target for the story.
And it's a completely different style than you get here. And I think that's important. If you love Kyle, if you love wacky, weird, goofy, over the top, if you love the cartoons of 1936 and, last week's episode of Doctor Who, and every time they would run those Bosco shorts at 3 a.m. on Nick at Night, this may be your jam. If you just want to see what happens when somebody off the beaten path is allowed to play with DC's bigger names. And Plastic Man's a big name. Plastic Man had a cartoon, y'all, in 1979. He's one of DC's more recognizable names. Everybody knows your Plastic Man. People will tell you about your Plastic Man. He's the leader of the Fantastic Four, they'll tell you. Or Jimmy Olsen was Plastic Man, and he joined the Legion of Superheroes. People know your Plastic Man. So definitely worth looking into, but one of those books that I personally only look into as kind of a window into the mind of Kyle Baker and maybe the comics industry of 2005.
Yeah. Rodrigo, final thoughts from you.
It is important to, definitely for my opinion of it, that I'm coming at it from 2025, right? With just some context for when it came out, but I had not read this until now. So that's how I'm approaching it. This is a borrow from me. No, don't borrow it from me. I'm saying I borrow it from someone. Don't come to my house.
There's coyotes.
Again.
Yeah, there's coyotes around. Right? Listen to the pre-show. Right. So, and the reason for that is that I'm reading this book and I'm like, there's something here. Like that I'm either not getting or that the book isn't crossing the line enough for me. But there are multiple times when I felt like that was the case. So it's not bad. I was invested in it. I was like, book, give me what I want. And it kind of didn't a lot of the time. But that's not bad. So again, borrow it from a friend or borrow it from the library.
All right, there you go. Jarmo, we're going to let you live another month. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have recommendations for books that we should review on the show, you definitely need to get over into the Discord server because not now, but around October, I will solicit everybody for trades that are coming up. This is why you want to get in there now so that when October comes out, I do send that general announcement out saying, hey, I'm planning next year's trades. Let me have them. And people like Jarmo and Spin Dizzy and who else? Carl has demanded a couple of books this year. Yeah. So you want to get into the Discord server so that when it comes time for that, we can read your recommendations. Next week on the show, it's going to be Thunderbolts Volume 1. Why? Because there's a Thunderbolts movie coming out, and apparently it isn't bad. We're going to talk about that next week on the show. Why? Because we know that you love comics. We do too. And we will talk with you soon.
Fat Dick's Ray vision of a Superman. I could save a few bucks and stand around and read through the covers of the comics on the stand. But although every other page would be backwards, I suppose I could still read the evens and the odds. Well, I don't know. Guess I haven't thought this all the way through. Plus, as soon as the comic book store guy knew, he kicked my butt out on the corner. What a major spoiler. What a major spoiler. Think about a better way. If I was hulking green or gray, I could just bust through that brick wall, take their comic books away. But then the little meat would deal with all the tanks and bombs and guns. Have you ever tried to read a series with all that going on? Guess I need to rethink this plan. How would I back and board my comics with such huge hands? Guess I already told ya. What a major spoiler. What a major spoiler. Yeah, yeah, yeah. What a major spoiler. What a major spoiler. If I'm Stark Raven rich like a man of iron, I might not be surprised to find that I might actually have the heart cold to follow an entire storyline. But would I really even need to read up on all those escapades? I mean, who needs such distractions when your sister's such a babe? But the downside is such a beast. Being shot up in a fun, be in the Middle East with a gang sign throwing soldier. What a major spoiler. What a major spoiler. Yeah, yeah, yeah. What a major spoiler. Whoa, 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 whoa. What a major spoiler.
This podcast is copyright 2025 by Major Spoilers Entertainment, LLC.